Hello and welcome to episode 14 of the Confounded Chronicles. So in today's episode we did a bunch of work on the bodies of the pens, getting them machined closer to the finishing stage. I'll have a bunch of video that will insert at some point through this video. Fought with some threading issues that I'll go over, and bought some metal for the big lathe project, and I'll go over basically how I'm going to work on the lathe project and how I'm going to integrate it with all these other videos so that it gets its attention as well. So with my kind of daily flow as things work, I'm able to put hours of work into the pens pretty much every day. But I want to put some time into the lathe as well, and I want to segregate it into its own time slot so that it actually gets finished or starts to progress, or else it's just going to sit because I like working on pens. I like working on the lathe, but I always seem to focus my time on the pens. So I'm going to use Saturdays and Sunday mornings. It's probably going to be time that I'm just going to devote to the lathe. To get work on it and to start machining parts for it, because I'm starting to build up a lot of stock for it, but not building any of the parts for it. So that's what I'm going to be doing, and I'm going to roll it into my standard weekly video. I'll probably start the video off. If it's more interesting, I'll start with the lathe part. If the pen's more interesting, I'll start with that, but you'll basically get an update on that every week, so everybody wins. Yay! So since this video is going up probably tonight, Saturday and Sunday's work on the lathe here tomorrow will be in next week's video. But I basically will summarize what I'm planning on doing. I don't know if it's going to go that way, but we're going to work it that way. So lathe has just standard single race bearing. I'll show you right now. There. And in the back, we just have those single, relatively inexpensive bearings. And so basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to make new bearing blocks for these. Or I should say, I'm going to use that material to make new bearing blocks for the tapered roller bearings. So those will go in there. These are just big 1-inch chunks, offcuts that I got from my local metal store for like 50 cents a pound. So that's very inexpensive. I was going to make it out of aluminum, but steel's just so much cheaper, and I think that little mill will handle it just fine. So we're going to see how it works. I'm going to push that thing a little harder. The other thing I have is showed is a big headstock, so that fits perfectly in the bearings already. That should be fairly easy to do. And once we have the headstock built up and with a little tensioning block to apply tension or compression to the roller bearings, tapered roller bearings, then I will probably replace the ways with just once again a little more beefy, a little more round and a little more beefy steel, and then I can get a carriage on it and we can kind of keep moving through with that project. So that will hopefully, or part of that will be in next week's video. And yeah, so this week's video, what I did is focused a lot on machining the pen bodies, so I will insert that video now. What we're going to start off with is the blanks already drilled. I drilled them off camera, so what we're going to do is turn down the ends to fit the grips and to do the threading. The first step in the process is to rough down the sides, so I'm using the carbide tooling just to take relatively larger cuts off. There's a little bit of chatter at the very end of the cut as I run into the uncut portion, which kind of loads up the cutter. So once we got the size down to where we want it, I'm going to switch over to the high-speed steel, which has a sharp tip radius, and then I can go in and finish up that corner so it's nice and sharp for the grips to sit on. Next we'll break the edges and put a good chamfer on the front so that I can run the die over it. I'm also going to make a mark and then just make a stop with the little chamfer tools there so I see where to run the die. Little visual aid so I don't cut too far. Here I also forgot to reduce the end diameter down from the nominal diameter down for die cutting, so I just went back and did it and put a little die on and crank it over. I'm still having slight issues with my die going or having some expansion as I'm cutting the joints. That little brass knob on the back lets me compress the die. It's not a cheap die either, so I'm just kind of fighting with the nominal size to start with to get the thread pitched perfectly. So here I'm going to peel off about another thou of an inch. Just double check the fit, make sure nothing weird's happening. Run the die over it again just to straighten out the threads and cut ever so slightly deeper, and then run my little go gauge over it again. I want the fit to be just perfect, and I think I run it one more time here to get the fit just where I want it. Not too tight, not too loose, just a nice solid feel. So once I'm happy with that, we carry on with the process here. Next up is to tap the inside hole. That's a spiral flute tap. Once again, relatively not a cost-effective tap, but worth every penny. If you're using cheap like taps that you buy in a multi-set, buy yourself a nice spiral flute tap if you need it. Makes life so much easier. And then we're going to break the edges again. I'm also going to put the boring bar on, set at an angle to break the internal threads, and that'll make everything go together nice and easy at the very end here. So here's our nearly finished part, ready for kind of the final stages of machining before it goes into final polishing. The next stage is basically just cleaning up all the threaded ends and chamfers and whatnot. So I take a little chamfer tool and just clean up the ends of the thread. You won't ever see this because it's hidden by the grip, but why not make it pretty if you can? I also take the file just to clear up any of the transition mark between where we switch from high-speed steel or insert tooling to high-speed steel. And I'm also turning down the pen body there, take the mill finish off it, and bring us to nominal size. Or not nominal size, but bring us to the final bore size, because I'm not really going to be gripping it anymore. And here I'm just going to file off any remaining machining marks just to make the final polishing stage easier. And that's it. So these are ready for cleaning and final polishing. Here's some close-up shots. This is 2 threaded ends. Ends on the left done with a relatively cheap die. Ones on the right a little more expensive. Hard to see on camera, but there's galling on the left and less of it on the right. Still not perfect, but might be the best I can get with hand tapping. Here's a distorted shot showing the 2 different types of mill finish on the bottom and then just a cut finish on the tops. A little nicer. Still before polishing, but... And the internal bit where the grip will ride. Nice and sharp and clean, and something I'm very happy with. So that encompasses this week. Next week I hope to be working on the grips. There's some cool process with that, the patina and the artificial aging and the coatings and all kind of cool stuff. So that's something I'm in a video. Might be next week, maybe the week after. I don't know, it depends how crazy I get with building this. But yeah, that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next week. Take care. Bye.